He knows all the dark secrets, the abuse, the trauma, the abortion, everything that I have gone through. And he still accepted me. He still loves me. And we have a beautiful, beautiful relationship. He's a 2-4 emotional generator. And generators and projectors, I have found we get along so, so good. It's a great relationship. But the point being is he knew all my dark secrets. And then one day we were married, I'm standing in church and I see this video about abortion recovery. And it's like, I need to be there. The pull in me was so strong to be in that class. So off I go. I'm in that class. I go through the recovery. And the connections that I made with people were astounding to me. So I decided to start this podcast because social media for me, there's just so much, I feel like so much noise on there and so much AI on there. You can't even figure out, sometimes what's real and what's fake. And it just started to feel kind of icky. So my business coach, gotta love her, Vicki Dixon with CBD. She talked to me and she's like, Terry, you need to do something different. Originally, I thought it was going to be a podcast. Sorry. I thought it was going to be a blog. But then the more I thought about it, the more I let it sit with me. I'm a little bit of human design in here. I am a 2-4 emotional projector. So I really had to let the idea of blog, podcast sit for, oh gosh, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 weeks. But the more I thought about it, the more I just let that sit inside me to figure out which direction I really wanted to go. It was podcasting. So with podcasting, I feel like there needs to be some sort of introduction to who Terry is. My husband, I just love him to pieces. He understands me so much. Sometimes I don't think I give him enough credit for that. He knows all my secrets. So kind of backtrack a little bit here. I was born in the 60s. So that kind of gives you a little bit of insight of how things were back then. My mom died when I was very young. And a couple years later, my grandfather took his life. There's some family controversy about whether that happened or not. I felt lost. I didn't know how to work through the grief and of both of these people that meant so very much in my life. And my dad, he got married right away, and I was very resentful of that. So I created some problems, shall we say, within the family because I didn't feel like I belonged anymore. I didn't feel accepted. And as a projector, you need that recognition. I wasn't ready for any of that. I will say that my father was doing the best he knew how at the time. And part of that was my mom making him promise to find me a mom because I needed a mom. And so that's what he did. And it's taken a lot of years for me to move through that acceptance and to come to the other side because I did some blaming there, a lot of blaming actually. And if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened, if only this happened and only if that happened, I wouldn't have done this. But in reality, I know in my heart, in my being, that my father was doing the best he could with how he knew how to move through being a single parent for a period of time and finding me a mom and having a family again back in the 60s and 70s. The men, they worked, they led the family. I needed connection, but as a child who really wasn't talking a lot, I was not communicating and I didn't know how. So a lot of times for me to talk, even on this podcast, I sometimes get the words stuck in my throat and they don't come out. And I can't articulate what it is that I want to say. And sometimes I'm not even sure what that is. So you'll witness some of that with me, and excuse me for those moments. This is how I move through my life, and I accept that. I've given myself a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace. And sometimes we need to do that for ourselves so we can move past those painful experiences that we had and to release them. They hold us hostage, and nobody wants that. And that's what happened to me for a long time in my life. I was holding myself hostage in these shadow aspects of the past and those stories that kept replaying in my head. I had done these things growing up to get my father's attention, to to control the narrative and not to guide as a projector should do, but the total opposite. But back then, there wasn't talk of human design. There wasn't talk of therapy and healing. It was pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get going. So that was the expectation. And my pulling up my bootstraps didn't look like probably like a lot of other people's, because I drug my bootstraps and I was like, no, I was not the easiest person to get along with or to connect with, because while I felt so alone and so lost and accepted, I also didn't understand that while that was going on, I was also pushing people away, wasn't letting them in. And part of me as a 2-4 projector is about community. And I was doing the total opposite, not even realizing that. So that's a part of who I am, how I am, or how I was, rather, not really understanding who or what I was or what I needed as far as relationships and community and really self acceptance and forgiveness of myself. And honestly, forgiveness towards my family, the ones who left, that I was not prepared to lose my mom at such a young age, or my grandfather. Honestly, I love my grandfather, but he had his own demons. And not knowing that for many, many years, I didn't understand why he left, because I needed him. And I also needed my dad. Those were some internal demons I had to work through. And I have. And it's taken a lot of years. But as we fast forward into early adulthood, I found myself in an abusive relationship, emotionally and physically. And I found myself pregnant. I had a beautiful little girl. She's all grown up now with her own family. And I stayed with this guy, married him. And here's a fact that I don't really said too much out loud, is when I was standing there getting married to him, the only thing I wanted to do was run out the door. Truly just run out the door. I didn't want to get married. But everyone was there. Those were the expectations. And I did it. But I should have listened to my body and said, get out right now. But I also got pregnant again. And at that point, I felt trapped. Just no way out, in a corner. I couldn't tell anyone. I told the father, my daughter's dad, and we decided to have an abortion. So I remember those moments, not all of them, some of them. It was very traumatic. It was awful. But that act changed me forever. And I felt dirty. I felt unloved. I felt unacceptable. I felt like I had done this horrible thing. And I didn't deserve any of the good stuff that life brings, any of the good stuff that God gives us, the blessings and the abundance that He was trying so hard to give me. And I was just going the total opposite way. So, anyway, years later, being withdrawn, not letting people in, controlling the situation and the people around me, I pushed through it all. I pushed through all the feelings. I pushed through my career. I just acted and I kept going and going and going until one day I looked around and it's like, yeah, this isn't working. I needed people around me, but when I looked around, there really wasn't a lot of people left. Let's just say that, because I had pushed so many people away. Yes, I am very independent. That defined will. I'm independent and I can get pretty centered on things and just go. And people don't always understand that. And if you don't try and bring them along or explain what you're doing, they feel like they're being left out or you don't want them around, which in reality, the total opposite was true. But one day I looked around and it's like, wow, okay. But then I met my current husband and he understands me. He knows all the dark secrets, the abuse, the trauma, the abortion, everything that I have gone through. And he still accepted me. He still loves me. And we have a beautiful relationship. He's a 2-4 emotional generator. And generators and projectors, I have found we get along so good. It's a great relationship. But the point being is he knew all my dark secrets. One day I'm standing in church and I see this video about abortion recovery. And it's like, I need to be there. The pull in me was so strong to be in that class. So off I go. I'm in that class. I go through the recovery and the connections that I made with people were astounding to me. I mean, I wanted more of that, but I didn't understand how to get it. I didn't understand what to do because I'm still kind of pushing people away and then trying to pull them in. It doesn't really work that way very well. But that was a part of what I was going through. Fast forward a little bit more. I get a certification for nutrition to help women lose weight, lose fat. And I love that. I have so much fun doing that. I enjoy it. But yet it wasn't enough. There was something more pulling me and I couldn't quite figure out what that was. I remember standing in the kitchen several years ago and this one thought hit me and it's like, what is going on with me? Why am I having such a hard time, with relationships and letting them know me, truly know me, all the things, but they weren't the right people. I didn't understand that then, but they weren't my people. I started looking around and I was in the middle of a business coach program. And within the coaching program, there was a healing coach that I had heard her speak several times in class. And it's like, yep, I'm gonna contact her. And I worked with her, Tara Dawn. She's amazing. She brought out a lot of what I had buried. I moved through that and I let that hurt and that trauma out of me. I moved through it. So that brought me to learning about human design. And I found out more about myself. And I think that's where my curiosity was driven. And that was a game changer. How I moved through life, what actually clicked for me. What did I need to pay attention to within my body to give me those clues of what was the next right step for me? So, okay, I'm going to do human design business. I love all of that. I love the nutrition, the fat loss, the human design to bring that to women, to give them that permission slip, if you will. This is how you are. You're not like your next door neighbor, but you are how you were meant to be. And I find that just freeing, just absolutely freeing. Then I started another business course, CBD with Vicki Dixon. And within that, she ran my human design and she asked to give a little bit about my business. And I started writing. And then all of a sudden, it just took a shift of being pulled towards what I've been ignoring or pushing back or maybe not ready or afraid. I think there's, definitely some fear. Fear was going on in there because when I started writing, I couldn't stop. It's like my business is around women who have gone through loss, grief, trauma, abuse, abortion, and that there is another side to this, to forgive yourself and to have a life that is joyful and stillness and peace and love. So, what I'm here to do for right now, I really feel doing this podcast will reach women who need to hear the message that they're okay and to change the world to say that you don't have to hide anymore. I did the hiding. It's a lonely place to be and you are afraid to show who you really are. People see you as strong and moving forward and you know what's going on and you're moving in the direction that everybody in culture's like, yep, that's where you got to go, be hard, don't be vulnerable, don't show who you are, go and get what you want above all else. And I don't see it like that. I really don't. Being vulnerable isn't weak. There is more strength in being vulnerable than I can put into words. And to come alongside you, and you'll hear me referred to in my future podcasts of a lot of we, because I've been through these things. I've lived these experiences. That is what I want to convey to you. You are not alone. And you'll hear more of my stories as we go through the podcasts and I reveal bits and pieces more and more. But yeah, this is me and join me for the next one.